I credit my youngest daughter, well, from the time when she was in 4th grade, when she was incredulous that we were using beautiful water from Mount Tamalpais to flush our toilets. And a few years later, when the seat opened up on the Water District Board, she approached me and said, "I thought you said you couldn't do anything." And it was literally her provocation that got me onto the board of the Water District and completely changed the direct trajectory of my life.
Armando, thank you for joining us today. I really appreciate your time. I know you're busy running a very large and complicated system, so thanks for your time. And so we'll jump right in, and I'd love to ask you a number of questions. First one is just tell us what you were doing 10 years ago.
I was development director for the Sierra Nevada Research Institute at the University of California at Merced. I was serving on an elected board as a member of the Municipal Water District. And I was also a board member of a Mexican music school called Los Censontles, which means the Mockingbirds. And it's a Mexican Music Academy in the East Bay.
So tell us about what you're doing now, beyond your title, but tell us a little bit about your job now and kind of generally what you do in a day.
What I do in a day is difficult to package, but there are 4 departments within the California Department of Recreation, or 4 divisions. One of them is California State Parks, which is 280 parks, which includes 300 miles of California's coastline. And there are parks from the southern border of California to the northern border and right up against the Nevada border in a few areas. I also oversee the Division of Boating and Waterways, and that program develops grants and issues grants for things such as boat ramps and water access and the building of docks and things like that. They also deliver safety programs for boaters in California and educational programs and materials, providing free life vests in a number of areas throughout California. And they also fund a lot of the law enforcement training for waterways, law enforcement management in California. Also oversee the division of off-highway vehicles. There are 9 off-highway vehicle parks in the state park system, and they run under different sort of statute. And those are heavily used areas in California, but that program also has a grants program, which supports the purchase of, the management of, the improvement of lands that are used for off-highway vehicle usage in areas other than state parks in California. And then there is the Office of Historic Preservation, which oversees sort of the administration of historic buildings and designating historic buildings, as well as keeping track of all of the archaeological sites in California. So it's a busy combination of divisions, and in total, there's about 6,500 employees across those 4 divisions.
Great. So maybe if you could just talk a little bit about the changes in your field over the last 10 years.
Well, certainly in the last few years, we have seen climate change, sea level rise, catastrophic fires, certainly the impacts of COVID, which we are still experiencing right now, drought. And amidst all of this, we've seen incredible increased visitor use and demand for these landscapes and waterscapes, which really are clearly essential landscapes for our own mental and physical health. And in the midst of all that, we've also had floods and even a tsunami just a few weeks ago. So it's been, I think, a very concentrated time of incredible challenges. And it's been, in the last year and 5 months, it's just been an amazing time to work with these departments, which are responding to these critical issues and then working on the reimagining and rebuilding. So there's a lot going on at the same time, and it's an extraordinary moment in history.
What is something that you would love to see organizations in your field do more of?
I think 2 words, regional cooperation. So often public land agencies are right next to each other, whether they be city, county, state, federal, and even nonprofit managed landscapes. And oftentimes they're in the same watershed, or in some cases, the same mountain. And I think that formalizing partnerships in these arenas can really enhance, not only prioritize decision making, but it can also lead to joint investments that can really make a meaningful difference for the landscapes, the public, the resources management, and all of the benefits that can come from that. So I'd like to see more of that.
That's great. What do you see as the biggest challenge in your field right now?
Honestly, I think it's a combination of seeking the best science, understanding what the priorities should be given where we are now with the challenges that we face. And then that's tied to being able to really articulate the need for and get the funding that's needed to really make a difference relative to the climate change impacts that we are all seeing. And also it really demands, in the world of parks, a reimagining of how we are managing parks. So I think that that is the biggest challenge right now, is trying to do our best to apply the best wisdom to the problems we face now.
You've been in a variety of leadership positions throughout your career, and I'm sure you've accumulated a lot of wisdom, maybe some mistakes along the way. But what have you learned that you wish other people and other leaders knew?
I think that there is an extraordinary, and I might even say invaluable, return in making every effort to meet and see employees in the field and in the department where they are and see the work they're doing. And I would say that that's one of my primary interests, in that my career working in parks, working with the University of California, and working with other organizations, I really think that we work as a collective, and what everybody does is really important. And I think for leaders to acknowledge the folks on the front line, to acknowledge the folks that are really lifting up new approaches, and honestly giving credit to the very people who do the work and who inform us as managers on the kinds of things we need to be considering as we manage these operations and work with people who collectively represent wisdom.
Great. And you serve as a mentor for a lot of people. A lot of people really look up to you as a leader in the field, and you've mentored a lot of people in your career. I'm curious, when you interact with younger employees or younger people, what kind of advice do you give them about your journey, or that could be helpful for them in their journey?
I mean, I say all the time, we cannot do our work without each other, and actually I was asked to speak to a group of our law enforcement cadets in the Law Enforcement Academy for the state. It's like 40 students. And somebody asked me a question, and I basically, my response is, I am modeling what I expect you all to do. And I said, and that is treat each other with equity, with a sense of equity. We are all colleagues here. And I don't, I forget how I said it, but basically it's, while we may have hierarchical organizations, we absolutely have to be supportive of each other, because I think that actually, honestly, that comes from, when I said earlier that there's lessons to be learned from negative and positive. I had plenty of times of folks sort of squishing me, and I'm thinking, really? Well, do you really have to do? And I've seen other folks, we've seen it, we've all seen that. And I think that's not only is it disrespectful, but I think it could very well be the loss of an important idea.
I want to end with a question that is it can be a challenging one, which is to say, what's an interesting question that you have for others in the field, maybe other state park directors or others with whom you work, that you're curious about that you don't have the answer to?
I think it would be, what are the most important lessons that have surprised you recently? What are the most important lessons that have surprised you in your career?